Hey movie heads, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing a quick movie review on Netflix's Extraction, starring Chris Hemsworth. Now this movie is based on a graphic novel about Tyler Rake, a black market mercenary who is sent to rescue the son of an imprisoned crime lord. This film is directed by Sam Hargrove and also written by the fabulous Joe Russo. What I loved about this film from start to finish was definitely the sound quality. It was legit. You felt like you were in the movie theater. From the sound of the explosions to the gunshots to all of the action sequences with the punches and the kicks. Not only did you hear it really well, but you felt it. Some felt like they were mercenaries in the story. Love the way that Chris Hemsworth portrayed Tyler Rake as a character, as a person. I really felt like there was a lot of mysteriousness behind his character, and it's kind of the same mysteriousness that I felt when I first watched John Wick. The way that Keanu Reeves portrayed John Wick, I feel like is almost the same way that Chris Hemsworth portrayed Tyler Rake, and I absolutely love that. And it was to the point where you didn't know too much about his character, which isn't always a bad thing, I will say. Yes, he is the lead in the story, and most people would want to know a lot. Like, I know after I finished watching it the first time, there were so many questions that I had that I'm like, why didn't they include these things in a movie? But at the same time, I feel like art doesn't need too much detail. If it gave you a good feeling after watching it, that should be enough. I would say one of my favorite characters was Avi. His expressions, his reactions, his timing, everything was just amazing. The way that he was able to relate to Tyler Rake. He kind of clinged to him, and I would even argue that he kind of became sort of this father figure that he looked up to, since his own father, a crime lord, was in jail. And so he really didn't have anyone but his friends. But there was so much between the two that you can tell that Tyler Rake developed a good relationship with him in some way. He cared about him, and he was not only doing the job, I think he actually really was concerned for that kid's well-being. So there was a lot of brutal hand-to-hand combat between Tyler Rake and Saju, who is basically Ovi Jr.'s father's partner. But I think maybe a little bit, I think Ovi Sr. is his boss in the business. But he basically threatened Saju to, if he didn't rescue Ovi Jr. or at least get him back, then something bad would happen to his son. So of course, he basically had to do what he needed to do to rescue Ovi Jr. The way that Golshift Farahani portrayed Nick Khan was absolutely lovely, because there was so much more that you wanted to know about her. When she first came on the screen, you could read her as a force to be reckoned with. She had this sort of power in her presence, and the way that she was, leading the team. And I just wish she had a little bit more screen time, but that's okay. But you can definitely tell that there was something between her and Tyler Rake, and they didn't go too much into that at all. You could just kind of see the way that she looked at him and the way that he looked at her. The villain in the story, Amir, wasn't as fearful as I would have liked him to have been. He had a lot of his henchmen do a lot of the heavy lifting for him. And I would say that there was enough scenes in the movie to where they did some disturbing things that kind of made you cringe or jump up a little bit, but I would have liked for the villain to have done it himself. That way he could establish why he does what he does, who he is, and why he should be feared. This movie relied heavily on moving the story, I will say, versus character development and even the relationships that all those characters had with one another. I'll even argue that I wanted to know a little bit more about David Harbour's character, because yes, he had good screen time, a fair amount, to where you knew that he had saved Tyler Rake in the past or whatever, but they didn't really go into what he saved him from. All you knew was that Tyler Rake kind of, I think he felt like he owed him in a way, or he kind of considered him to be a friend at the time, while he was trying to save this young boy and get him to safety. And I won't tell too much about it, but it just kind of didn't end up too well between the two. So I would have loved to know, like, exactly how close were they and what did he save him from. He felt comfortable enough to stay at his home, but maybe he felt like he had no choice, since he didn't want to be out in the streets with this kid. The way that Chris Hemsworth handled himself in the action sequences was amazing. They had one clip or one scene where it was literally like 8 minutes long, I think, and without cutting, single shots. They were going through different departments. He was fighting off everyone, and it was just amazing. And I wonder how many times they had to film that in order to get it right, because my God, I'd be like, all right, cut. I need a water break. We'll get back in 5. Those guys are in incredible shape to just continuously fight like that. And it was definitely reminiscent of John Wick and the hand-to-hand combat that you saw in a lot of the John Wick movies. So should you see it or should you leave it? I would say definitely see it. This is something that I think was needed, and I'm surprised that it even came to Netflix, because this you would have thought this would be in theaters. So I mean, but it still worked out. Netflix gets that, you know, that ownership, that credit. It was a great movie. Comment down below if you've seen the movie. What do you think? If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend that you see it. Very entertaining, very emotional, especially towards the third act. There was a lot of twists and turns, like you just didn't know where the movie was going to take you. It was a roller coaster ride, I will say, but in a good way. So tell me what you think down below, and I will see you guys in the next movie review.